On the day of our daughter Natalie's piano recital, my husband Nicholas had to go on a business trip to Boston. I had been suspicious of his behavior lately, thinking he might be cheating, and then Natalie mischievously recorded a conversation Nicholas was having on the phone. Listening with a mix of anticipation and anxiety, I was shocked by the raw conversation.
Let's love each other a lot. Yeah, I want to be with you soon, too. But my wife won't agree to a divorce. Of course, the only one I love is you, Charlotte.
I became so filled with anger and emptiness that I couldn't think of anything. Choosing a trip with his mistress over Natalie's recital? Is he even a father? A fierce anger surged within me, heating my body. Fine, then I'll give you a divorce. But you'll pay dearly for betraying me and Natalie. I'm Eva, a 28-year-old housewife. I live with my husband Nicholas, who is 5 years older, and our daughter Natalie, who goes to kindergarten. After graduating from junior college, I joined my current company as a new graduate and met Nicholas there. Nicholas, leading the product development team as the team leader, was reliable and charming. Eventually, Nicholas confessed his feelings, and we started dating. The next year, I found out I was pregnant. Nicholas was overjoyed when I told him, and his parents were welcoming, saying, "We're delighted such a young woman is becoming our son's wife." We received congratulations from my parents and everyone at work and had a grand wedding. However, the happiness didn't last long. As soon as Natalie was born, Nicholas and his parents showed their true colors.
What? A girl?
Those were the words of father-in-law Tyler, who rushed to the maternity hospital after I gave birth. "I hoped for a healthy heir from someone so young. Disappointing indeed." And these were mother-in-law Katrina's words. "Eva, if you want to be recognized as Nicholas's wife, you better give birth to a boy soon."
Dad, Mom, I'm sorry. I'll do better next time.
The in-laws came uninvited, complained, and then left. I was beyond angry, just astonished. I mean, I'm the one giving birth, right? Heirs? We're just an ordinary salary man's family, aren't we? I had many things I wanted to say, but I swallowed them all, not wanting to make a scene. Oh well, so this is the true nature of the in-laws and Nicholas. My worries grew as Nicholas, not even looking at newborn Natalie properly, indulged in mobile games on the sofa. The next day, I received a message from Nicholas's sister, Mary. It had been since our wedding that I had talked to Mary. I heard from Nicholas that the baby was born safely. I thought it would be bothersome to barge into the hospital, so I'll send a baby gift to your house. I immediately replied with a thank you message. She seemed like a considerate person, unlike the in-laws and Nicholas, which was a relief. Returning home after a month-long postnatal stay, I found cute baby clothes and a stuffed animal, so I quickly called to thank her. As we continued to exchange messages, Mary and I became close, and after Natalie started attending the child care center, meeting up with Mary for chats became my break. Nicholas left all the household chores to me, even though I was working full-time. Before marriage, he played the understanding husband, saying,
"If Eva wants to continue working, I'll support her, and I'll help with the housework."
But he suddenly changed his attitude. Worse yet, Nicholas couldn't even take care of himself properly. He left plates on the dining table after meals, scattered shirts and socks on the floor, and his figure sprawled on the couch in sweats, fiddling with his mobile phone, was like that of a giant child. "Papa, you have to put your clothes in the laundry basket in the bathroom."
"Shut up. Don't talk to me. You made me mess up."
Natalie, scolded by Nicholas, sadly walked away from him. "Hey, Nicholas, can you hang the laundry if you're free?"
"That's a woman's job. My mom did all the housework properly. Unlike you, a housewife, I don't have the time."
Then Nicholas said in a tone as if he was disgusted,
"Every housewife does household chores perfectly. If you can't manage the house, why not quit your job? There are plenty of people who can replace you, Eva."
His last words pierced my heart. Indeed, unlike being a wife or a mother, there are plenty of team members in my department who can do my job. But was it necessary for him to say that? When I suggested buying a dishwasher and a clothes dryer, Nicholas told me,
"If you're going to slack off on housework, then quit your job."
"Mama, I'll help you wash the dishes." "Thank you. Then could you please wash the pot and the ladle?" After setting up a step stool for kids, Natalie climbed up and began washing the pot cheerfully. Even a child shows more compassion than Nicholas. While deliberately not looking at Nicholas lounging on the sofa, I resumed washing the dishes. From the beginning, Nicholas had shown little interest in Natalie. Changing diapers, showering her, putting her to sleep, he avoided all of it. Even when she started walking, he barely spoke to her. On weekends, when he lay sprawled on the sofa with nothing to do, he would shoo her away with a wave of his hand. If she begged him to play, he would make an overtly annoyed face when Natalie spoke to him. "Hey, Dad, I have a piano recital coming up. I'm playing Little Bird's Walk. I can play it well." Nicholas raised his voice at Natalie, who had run up to the black upright piano.
"Stop it. It's annoying."
"What's wrong with listening for once?"
"I hate both the piano and kids' voices. They irritate me."
Nicholas glared at the piano with a sullen face.
"Anyway, becoming a pianist is impossible."
"We don't know that. Natalie, you're practicing hard, right?" I hurriedly tried to cover for Nicholas's dream-crushing words. However, Natalie got down from the piano bench with a sad face, took a picture book from the shelf, sat down with her back to us, and spread the book on her lap. Natalie started attending piano lessons last year after being inspired by a live piano performance at a city event. I bought a piano with a silencing function using my salary so she could play comfortably in our apartment. Natalie practiced earnestly every day with headphones on after returning from the child care center. Her hard work was recognized, and she was selected for the next recital. As Nicholas left in his car with his mobile phone, Natalie said sadly, "I wanted Daddy to hear my performance." "Let's have him listen next time." "Oh, let's try the method your teacher taught us. Listening to the recording helps identify parts that aren't played well." Natalie's face lit up instantly. "I remember how to record with the smartwatch." "Then play, and I'll listen." Natalie pressed the recording button on the smartwatch my parents bought for her birthday, placed it on the piano, and started playing. "Wow, you've improved again, Natalie. That's amazing." To my sincere praise, Natalie beamed with happiness. The recital at the end of the month was supposed to be attended together with Nicholas. He seemed reluctant, but when he told Natalie,
"Daddy will also come,"
she practiced even harder than usual. However, on Friday night, Nicholas casually mentioned,
"I'm off to Boston for a business trip tomorrow. I'll be back Monday morning."
"What?" Natalie was really looking forward to you coming. Is work more important than Natalie's recital?
"Can't help it. It was decided suddenly."
I felt suspicious of Nicholas's grumpy response. Do business trips get decided so last minute? Lately, Nicholas always keeps his mobile phone close, and whenever a call or message comes, he excuses himself saying,
"It's work,"
and moves suspiciously to his study. It's exactly how a cheating person would behave. I want to find evidence, but he's so cautious he sleeps with his mobile phone, leaving no chance to sneak a peek. And so, the day of the piano recital arrived. Natalie, dressed in a pink dress, played her piece perfectly in front of a large audience, and the hall erupted into a big round of applause. Feeling happy, she fell asleep, and the next morning, while I was preparing breakfast in the kitchen, a sleepy Natalie came downstairs from the second floor and spoke to me. "Mama, are we going shopping by bike today?" "Yes, to the shopping street. The roads are too narrow for a car around there." "You better not. You might fall and hurt yourself." I almost laughed. "Natalie, adults don't fall like children do." "But Mama, in my dream, you fell and there was blood on your knee." I stroked her head, insisting seriously, and soothed her. That evening, on my way back from shopping as planned, I turned left on the sidewalk and got startled by a cat that suddenly jumped out, causing me to hastily brake. Then, an onion fell out of my eco bag in the front basket, and as I got distracted by it, I lost my balance and fell off the bike. Ouch! Since I wore a skirt today of all days, my knee was bleeding when I looked at it. Just as Natalie had predicted, I fell and got hurt. When I told Nicholas this story as a joke after he came home from work, he looked at Natalie and me suspiciously.
"It's just a coincidence."
"It's not a coincidence. I knew it would happen."
Yeah.
Nicholas didn't take us seriously and went to his study with his mobile phone. But Natalie's predictions didn't end there. A few days later, as Nicholas was getting ready for work, Natalie spoke to him. "Dad, you better not eat lunch outside."
Why?
A bird will snatch it. It's dangerous.
Ah, yeah, sure.
Nicholas responded nonchalantly and left the house with his bag. That evening, upon returning home, Nicholas called out to Natalie excitedly.
Natalie, your prediction came true. I was eating a sandwich in the park during a sales call, and a crow swooped down and stole it.
Really?
Yeah, they say the birds are aggressive this time of year because they're nesting. Man, it really startled me.
I looked at Natalie in surprise. Did you see it in a dream again? Yeah, see, I was right.
It's amazing, for just a coincidence. Even the details are accurate.
Nicholas said, impressed, crossing his arms and nodding. Natalie's dream predictions continued. Drop a handkerchief at the station. The elevator will suddenly stop. The vegetables bought at the supermarket will be spoiled. Buy clothes in the wrong size. Even if I knew about Natalie's predictions in advance, it was hard to prevent them, and honestly, they weren't very helpful. However, Nicholas, who loves paranormal phenomena and often watches TV specials and online videos, was strangely happy that Natalie seemed to have awakened some mysterious power.
Children have keen senses, so there are cases around the world where they see spirits or make predictions. But to think my own child would have such abilities, that's amazing.
Nicholas spoke happily, and Natalie smiled too. For her, it was surely delightful that her father, who had been indifferent to her until now, was actively talking to her and inviting her to watch videos together. I felt relieved to see this positive change, but also felt complicated. Can't Nicholas just love his own daughter Natalie normally? She's so adorable. A few days later, I complained about it to Mary in a cafe, but she dismissed it casually. Nicholas is that kind of person. Family affection, friendship, I don't think Nicholas understands them. Without love, his girlfriend is just for fun. He'd break up once he got bored. I used to think he was cool and attractive, but in the end, I realized he only loves himself. Yeah, a self-loving narcissist. I couldn't see through him before we got married. Oh, Mary, have you decided on a date for your wedding? When the topic shifted to her, Mary smiled a bit shyly. Yeah, you should be getting the invitation soon. Please bring Natalie too, if you can. Really? Natalie loves you, Mary. She'll be thrilled. Then we spent the time chatting about the wedding reception to be held at a hotel, enjoying delicious waffles. 2 months later, on the eve of Mary's wedding, unfortunately, Natalie caught a cold and developed a fever. The next morning, her fever had subsided a bit, but we decided she should skip the wedding. Unable to leave a recovering Natalie alone, I told Nicholas, I'll stay home too, so he was the only one to attend Mary's wedding. Natalie had really been looking forward to seeing Mary in her wedding dress, and I didn't have the heart to comfort her. After Nicholas left for the wedding, I was tidying up the living room when Natalie, who had been napping, came downstairs. Natalie, are you up already? Worried, I spoke to her, and Natalie, with a distant look, muttered, Daddy's airplane is on fire. What? What happened? That's the proof. She pointed at the smartwatch on the living room table. I had no idea what she was talking about and thought Natalie was just half asleep. Confused and thinking Natalie was just groggy from sleep, she asked me, Mama, did you know Daddy is going to Australia soon? What are you talking about? I have no idea. L794. Flight leaving the airport at 9:45 p.m. He's going with a woman named Charlotte. I saw a dream where that plane was on fire. Charlotte? Who is that? He said on the phone it's just his business trip to fool Mama. Natalie picked up the smartwatch and handed it to me. I secretly recorded a conversation between Daddy and that woman. What? You shouldn't do that. While admonishing Natalie, I took the smartwatch and stared at it. After watching Natalie go back to her room, having drunk a glass of water, I sat on the sofa and nervously pressed the play button on the smartwatch. It was hard to hear, but it was definitely Nicholas's voice recorded.
Ah, I've booked the hotel with the sea view, as you wanted, Charlotte. Let's love each other a lot.
I couldn't believe my ears. Unaware he was being recorded, Nicholas continued to talk in a flirtatious manner.
Yeah, I want to be with you soon too, but my wife won't agree to a divorce. Sorry for making you wait for 2 years. The only one I love is you.
His conclusive words left me breathless. Trying to contain my anger, I checked the rest of the conversation. Then, the infuriating truth came out. All his recent business trips were actually rendezvous with his mistress. It was unforgivable, especially the fact that he chose a trip with his mistress over Natalie's piano recital day. I was furiously angry. Prioritizing a trip with his mistress over Natalie's recital? Is he even a father? My head was in turmoil with disappointment and anger. A fierce anger surged within me, heating my body. Fine, then I'll give you a divorce, but you'll pay dearly for betraying me and Natalie. When I messaged Mary about this after her honeymoon, she replied, "Again?" and called me back immediately. In our student days, she had witnessed Nicholas cheating and getting into arguments with his girlfriend several times. I can forgive him for betraying me, but not Natalie. Divorce is certain, but I want to teach him a lesson first. Right, how about we do this? I smirked at Mary's plan. As the month drew to a close, Nicholas informed me,
"I'm heading to Australia the day after tomorrow."
I involuntarily glanced at Natalie, who was reading a picture book in the living room. Another business trip. You've been having a lot of those lately.
"Everyone's counting on me. Being away for 5 days is tough,"
Nicholas said with a smile, lying. Natalie, who had quietly approached us, asked Nicholas, "Daddy, are you going to Australia?"
"Yeah, I'm flying on flight JR724.
"That plane's going to catch fire." Startled by Natalie's casual remark, Nicholas made a surprised face.
"Did you see it in a dream again? Man, maybe I should cancel and change flights. I need to call her."
"Her?"
"A colleague who's coming with me. I'll make a call."
Nicholas hurried upstairs, leaving Natalie looking worriedly at his back. A month after the wedding, a dinner party with Nicholas's family and relatives was held, as suggested by Mary. It was held at the same hotel's restaurant rented out by Mary for Natalie, who had missed the wedding due to a fever. Fully recovered, Natalie wore the pink dress she was supposed to wear at the wedding, curled her long hair, and carried her favorite bag adorned with beads, looking utterly pleased. Nicholas's relatives were all familiar faces from our wedding. However, there was one young woman I didn't recognize, occasionally glancing at Nicholas. Next to me, Nicholas stiffened and deliberately avoided looking at her. Perplexed, I was kindly informed by Katrina.
"That's Charlotte, Nicholas's childhood friend. She's always admired Nicholas like family. That's why she's invited today."
"Is that so?"
"She believes she would marry Nicholas, but it's a shame he chose someone like you."
I didn't care about Katrina's snide remarks. Instead, I did my best to hide my surprise. What shocked me was Charlotte's presence, a childhood friend I had heard about from Mary, but hadn't expected Katrina to invite to the dinner. Katrina must not know Nicholas is cheating. She hates anything that goes against societal norms. The person herself is here, then it's perfect. I smirked nastily beside Nicholas, who was making a visible effort to ignore Charlotte. After a while, Charlotte approached our table. "Ava, nice to meet you. I'm Charlotte, Nick's childhood friend." She slurred her words, sizing up me and Natalie. "Nick, why didn't you introduce me? I couldn't wait and came over."
"Sorry, I was just focusing on eating. Eva, Natalie, this is Charlotte. We lived nearby when we were kids. I adored her like a little sister."
Nicholas introduced himself with a strained smile, and Charlotte looked displeased. Her aloof attitude seemed to bother her. I sipped my wine, casually observing the woman. Probably in her early 20s, she was stylish and attractive. "Natalie, right? Hello, you're just as cute as your dad." "Hello." "Wow, even your voice is cute. Wouldn't you like to be my daughter?"
"Charlotte, you've had too much to drink."
"Is that so? Then Nick, you should take care of me as usual."
"Just like old times, right?" Ha!
Nicholas let out a dry laugh, his face dripping with sweat. After finishing my glass of wine, I put on a smile and spoke to Charlotte. "Nice to meet you, Charlotte. It seems Nicholas is always in your debt."
"Eva, that's all in the past. We both have partners now."
"Yes, I hear Charlotte has a husband. But you two are in love, aren't you, Nicholas?"
"What are you talking about?"
Nicholas' flustered reaction was almost pitiable to watch. Then Natalie stood up and showed us her smartwatch. "Mama, okay." After confirming my nod, she pressed the playback button.
"I love you, Charlotte."
Suddenly, Nicholas's voice echoed throughout the venue, and he spit out his beer in shock.
What the? Stop it now, Natalie!
In a panic, Nicholas tried to take the smartwatch from Natalie, but unable to figure out how to stop it, his conversation with Charlotte continued to play loudly.
I can't wait to be in bed with you, Charlotte. Young women are the best, so soft to touch. I'm being pressured by my mom for an heir, but no way am I doing that with my nearly 30-year-old wife. Yeah, my wife neglects the kids. I do all the housework and childcare. I'm what you call a real supportive father.
The venue fell silent for a moment before starting to buzz. Nicholas's parents blushed under the cold stares of the relatives looking down in shame. Charlotte, now sobered up, looked down at Nicholas in disbelief.
It's not what it looks like. This is...
Nicholas's voice trailed off, and Natalie yelled out, "Liar, Daddy!"
What? What are you talking about?
Natalie, her face red with anger, quickly accused Nicholas.
It's Daddy who neglects Natalie. Mama works too, but she does everything at home. Daddy doesn't even pick up his own socks. Why lie?
No,
Natalie's voice filled the venue, exposing Nicholas's behavior.
Mama always plays with Natalie. We take showers together, read books, and she sleeps with me. She helps me practice piano. But Daddy just plays games at home and gets mad if I talk to him.
That's right. And while we're at it, I never heard about any divorce talk. I wish you'd stop making things up. I joined in scolding Nicholas, and his expression turned to one of rage. He slammed his fist down on the table.
Shut up. Be quiet. A daughter shouldn't talk back to her father. Your mother's upbringing is flawed. Hey, Eva, I, a prestigious university graduate, married you, a junior college graduate. You should be more grateful. Isn't it a wife's duty to take care of her husband?
Nicholas ranted, spitting, and then glared at Natalie.
Remember this, Natalie. One day, you'll be taking care of me.
Ew, no. Why should I take care of Daddy when he never plays with me?
Natalie's retort made me burst out laughing. And Nicholas, in his agitation, turned to Charlotte for support.
See, Charlotte, this is what my wife and daughter are like. You understand why I'm fed up, right?
Well, I've had enough too. Let's break up.
Exactly. Wait, what?
You're all lies. Charlotte expressed her anger and dissatisfaction. You complained about a lazy wife, but Natalie says otherwise, and you weren't even discussing divorce. Plus, you said you liked kids, but you actually hate them, don't you? Nick, this is your true nature. I can't believe you anymore. Nicholas was thrown into disarray. His confident demeanor changed completely, his face showing a pathetic expression.
Charlotte, it's not like that. Listen to me.
I can't stand your male chauvinism. I'm not into that. Find someone else.
But you're the only one for me.
Looking at Nicholas with a disgusted face, Charlotte grabbed her bag and left the venue. I seized the moment to have my say with the stunned Nicholas. I've been putting up with this because Natalie is still young and needs her dad, but I've had enough. We'll get divorced, but make sure you pay the compensation and child support. Nicholas, who had been staring at the door Charlotte left through, turned to me with a look of disbelief.
You're serious about divorcing?
Well, Nicholas, you don't need me and Natalie, right? From now on, you can enjoy your time with young girls. I'll take care of Natalie.
Hey, you're joking, right? How will you survive as a single mother?
With a sneer, Nicholas looked at me and Natalie.
You two can't live without me. If you retract your statement now, I'll forget all about your arrogant attitude and harsh words. Apologize now, and I'll pretend none of this ever happened.
I was utterly disgusted with Nicholas's arrogance. Does he even see reality? Listen, the one who can't manage without us is you. Nicholas, you're far more of a handful than 6-year-old Natalie. From now on, you better take care of yourself. I stood up, apologized deeply to Mary, Nicholas, and the relatives. I'm sorry for causing a scene. I'll be leaving first. Nicholas and his parents, being the hosts, couldn't just leave. They had to endure sarcastic comments from relatives and spend the rest of the meal in awkwardness. It must be tough for them, always so concerned about appearances. Well, according to Katrina, Natalie and I are not really part of the family, so it doesn't matter to us. I left the venue with Natalie, feeling liberated. When Nicholas returned from the dinner, I handed him the divorce papers. Make sure to fill these out. We'll settle the amount for compensation and child support through the lawyers later. And this apartment, since I bought it before we were married, you'll need to move out soon. Nicholas looked like he wanted to argue, but signed the divorce papers without further fuss. Realizing that arguing was futile, he agreed to the amount proposed by the lawyer and transferred it from his savings. Our divorce was finalized. Afterward, Nicholas was labeled as a liar by his affair partner and dumped. He faced backlash from his relatives and parents, and in a fit of defiance, ended up being disowned by them. Also, rumors of the divorce due to his infidelity spread quickly at his workplace, leading to his resignation. Thinking he could easily find a job in his desired field, Nicholas was repeatedly rejected for full-time sales positions and resorted to juggling part-time jobs. He's working from morning till night, scolded by a younger female manager, his pride crushed. Now he lives alone in a small old apartment. I sold the apartment and moved near my parents' home with Natalie, living a peaceful life. Without the troublesome and arrogant husband, I found more peace of mind, and Natalie smiles more than before. I was worried Natalie might miss Nicholas, but she seems indifferent to an uninvolved father, hardly mentioning Dad. I should have done this sooner. If Natalie ever wants to see him, I'm willing to contact Nicholas. Interestingly, Natalie's prophetic dreams disappeared after the divorce. Perhaps our troubled marriage had been causing her anxiety, leading to such a phenomena. I still meet Mary regularly, and she humorously updates me on Nicholas's condition and the scolding his parents received from relatives over the infidelity. Natalie started elementary school this spring. She returns home earlier than when she was at the child care center, so my parents look after her when I work late. Natalie has been visiting my parents since she was little and is very attached to them, and they adore their only grandchild. Moving forward, I plan to raise Natalie with care, relying on my parents' support when necessary.
Well, what a plain-looking girl you've brought home. These were the words mother-in-law said to me when we first met. Lincoln, feeling uneasy around his own mom, initially said we didn't need to meet for a marriage greeting, but I insisted it was important, so we went. At the house, Karen looked at me with hostility. No matter what his parents were like, I was determined to marry him. I'm Aubrey Hughes, 27 years old. Thrilled about the recent proposal from my boyfriend, I work at a deli. Lincoln, who proposed, is 2 years older than me, kind and very dependable. My dad has always run the deli. After graduating college, I decided to help him out there. Lincoln is a coworker. Dad liked him, and when we told him we were considering marriage, he seemed a bit grumpy but didn't object. Maybe he's sad about his daughter getting married. Dad's always been a man of few words, but always warmly watched over me. Ever since my mom passed away when I was very young, Dad raised me. Even during my rebellious phase, when I wouldn't listen to Dad, I overcame that period and grew up wanting to show my gratitude to him. Dad would say, "Don't worry about me, kid." But I was still worried. If I got married, Dad would be all alone. I hoped to keep working at the deli, even after marriage. Then, recently, Lincoln proposed. I immediately said yes, and he cried with joy. They say you choose a spouse like your dad, but Dad and Lincoln are complete opposites. Lincoln is very expressive and always smiles gently when our eyes meet. I can always tell when he really dislikes something just by looking at his face. Maybe it sounds like daddy issues, but could we live near my dad after we get married? When I said that, Lincoln looked puzzled and said, "Can't we just live with Mr. Hughes?" Really? Live together after we get married? There are many families like that, Aubrey. You're so serious. He chuckled. Maybe. I'll talk to Dad about it. Lincoln nodded with a smile. He always chats happily with Dad at work. Dad may not show it, but I feel a softness in him. They must be a good match. But when I brought up living together to Dad, he firmly said, "No, you're an adult now. Once you're married, you should move out." "But Dad, you'll be all alone." "Don't worry about me. You're still immature worrying about others." That was all Dad said, and he wouldn't respond to anything else. I knew he was thinking of me, but it still felt lonely. I told Lincoln about it, and we decided to look for our own place and plan the wedding. As we smoothly moved forward, I paused Lincoln once. We had to visit his family and have a family meeting at Lincoln's house. "We should greet your parents first." "Yeah." Lincoln frowned, looking upset. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." "You look troubled. We're going to be a couple. I'd like us to keep secrets to a minimum." After a moment, Lincoln started to explain. "My parents are a bit difficult. Actually, my family owns a fairly large company that operates supermarkets and food stores." "Wow, really?" I had never heard of Lincoln's family company, but everyone in our neighborhood knew the stores they ran. "It's a mid-sized business, but Mom acts like she's some kind of first lady. The neighbors kind of keep their distance. Dad's always buried in work, and Mom always gets hysterical. She's always told me not to grow up to be like Dad." "So you don't really like your parents?" "No, I actually dislike them. I have a younger brother, but Mom ignores him and fusses over me just because I'm the eldest. He got fed up and cut ties with the family. So, about the marriage." Lincoln trailed off deep in thought. Being the son of a CEO, he was probably expected to take over the business, which might mean he couldn't continue at the deli. "So, what about the deli?" "I want to keep working there. No matter what Mom and Dad say, my life is mine." "Right, but don't force yourself for my or Dad's sake. We'll manage. I want you to do whatever makes you happy." Lincoln hugged me and thanked me repeatedly. I believe we can be a great couple together. First, we had to deal with his family. I decided to face the meeting with his parents. It was Sunday. We took a train and a bus, then walked about 10 minutes from the bus stop to his family's house. The entrance was quite large. A 2-story house stood at the end of a large garden. As Lincoln rang the doorbell, I felt a bit nervous. Without answering the doorbell, the door clicked open, and a middle-aged woman appeared. She was adorned in elegant clothes and accessories, probably all designer brands with high-quality fabric. The woman who would be my mother-in-law glared at me and said, "Well, what a plain-looking girl you've brought. Come in anyway. I'd be embarrassed if the neighbors saw a guest like you at our house." I was so taken aback by her remark that I grimaced, forgetting to greet her. Lincoln immediately objected. "Mom, if you're going to say things like that, we'll leave right now." Karen frowned for a moment, then said, "Next time, come in more appropriate clothes," and let us in. When I offered a gift, she reacted with disdain. "It's probably something poor people eat. I don't want it." "Mom!" Lincoln firmly admonished her, and Karen reluctantly accepted the sweets from me. I understood why Lincoln was worried. Having dealt with various complaints before, this didn't faze me much. Still, it's a bit sad to be disliked by the parents of someone you love. Then I suddenly realized, today was meant to be a marriage introduction, so father-in-law Brooke should be here, but he was nowhere to be seen. As I looked around, Karen misinterpreted it and snapped. "Hey, you! It's rude to stare at someone's house like that. Is our home a novelty to poor people like you?" "No, I was just wondering where Brooks is." "Don't call him Brooks, will you? We haven't approved your marriage yet." I felt any comment I made would be met with hostility. Lincoln, looking upset, finally spoke up. "You keep calling Aubrey poor, but she's not. Don't insult her." Really, her cheap-looking clothes made me think she's just another poor person from around here. Oh dear. Growing up in a family without money, you just lack any sense of grace. I looked at my clothes. They weren't expensive, but were popular among young people, and I had chosen them for their clean look. However, Karen clearly didn't approve. I tried to divert from the clothing topic and bowed slightly. "Nice to meet you. I'm Aubrey Hughes. Please treat me well." But Karen just snorted and gave no response. That's when Lincoln lost his patience. "We shouldn't have come. Let's go home." He grabbed my hand and headed for the door. Karen, in a panic, stopped us. "Wait, my apologies." It seemed like she was remorseful, so Lincoln and I decided to sit down with her in the living room. "Where's Dad?" Lincoln asked, to which Karen replied with a bitter face. "He went golfing. I told him yesterday we were coming, but who knows what he was thinking. By the way, what are your parents like?" She suddenly changed the topic and looked at me. Relieved to finally have a normal conversation, I answered. "My mom passed away when I was young, so I don't remember her. Dad raised me alone. He's quiet but kind, sometimes strict, and always puts me first. He's a dad I really respect." As I spoke earnestly, Karen muttered under her breath, "How disgusting." "Mom, Aubrey's dad Brooks is a respectable man. He built up a deli from scratch and now it's a big company." A single parent and self-employed? Must have been quite poor, huh?" Karen's eyes, fixed on me, clearly showed no goodwill. I wondered how she could presume to know everything based on a simple description. I felt bad for Lincoln, but I decided I definitely did not want to interact with Karen after we were married. I feared she might insult my dad again, and I didn't want him involved with such people. As if understanding my feelings, Lincoln stood up firmly. "What you think is your business. We don't need your approval to marry. We came today just to inform you of our marriage. Being insulted by you has been very unpleasant. We'll be leaving now." With a cold voice, Lincoln took my hand again, and this time we really left the house. Karen tried to stop us, shouting, "Wait!" But Lincoln didn't listen. On the way back, Lincoln said, "We've done the bare minimum. We don't need to be involved anymore." I wondered if that was really okay. Ideally, parents and children should reconcile. But I didn't want to force Lincoln, so I decided to give up on his parents. 3 days later, a call from Brooks came to our company. "I'm sorry for missing your visit. Embarrassingly, my wife told me about your coming when I was drunk the night before, and I completely forgot. Please forgive me." Is that so? I heard from Lincoln. My wife was rude to you, and I apologize for that. I'd like to formally introduce my family. Would you be willing to meet? I couldn't immediately accept Brooks' invitation. If Karen said something awful to my dad, I knew I wouldn't be able to stand it. "Sorry, but I don't want to interact with Karen. I don't want to deal with someone who might say horrible things to me, my dad, or Lincoln. I understand that marriage involves family ties, but I prefer to keep it to a minimum. I understand your concerns. I'm truly sorry about my wife. I promise she won't make such remarks again. You don't have to interact with her after the marriage. As a father, I just want to know the family of the person my son is marrying. Please, could you agree to meet?" With Brooks asking like that, I couldn't refuse. After thinking it over, I replied, "Okay, but if Karen shows hostility or insults us, we'll leave immediately." Brooks seemed happy, and I could tell he cared for Lincoln in his own way. I discussed this with my dad and Lincoln. Lincoln looked unhappy, saying, "I don't think we should go. I have a bad feeling about this." But my dad had the opposite view. It's basic courtesy to meet them. So, a week later, we were set to dine at an upscale restaurant chosen by Lincoln's parents. Dad and Lincoln wore sharp suits, and I dressed in a party dress. It was elegant attire, so I hoped there would be no complaints. The restaurant felt like another world. A French cuisine establishment, it made me forget I was in America. We were led to a private room where Lincoln's parents were already waiting. Karen, in a flashy dress, looked down on me with a smug expression. I felt uneasy, but we quietly took our seats as nothing was said yet. Brooks and Dad greeted each other, and after discussing how we met and our journey to marriage, they started talking about business. Apparently, Brooks' stores source deli products from various companies. "What's the name of your deli?" Brooks asked. The moment Dad revealed the name of the deli, Karen burst into laughter. "Ha ha ha, never heard of it. That's what you get with a small personal business. That's why I told you to work for our company. Joining a small business and marrying this girl, you'll just be taken advantage of. You don't understand the world. You're meant to be a CEO, so come back to us." That's when I realized this family introduction was a ploy to insult us and break off the marriage. Was Brooks in on it? I glanced at him, but he looked unexpectedly shocked and turned pale. Brooks quickly stood up. "I'm terribly sorry for making you uncomfortable." He apologized. But Dad was furious, and there was nothing to be done. His face was expressionless, but the air around him seemed to drop in temperature, giving me goosebumps. Dad stared sharply at Karen and said, "Then it's over." "Eh?" Karen, realizing Dad's anger, turned pale and looked confused. "If we can't be family, then we'll leave. Let's go, Aubrey. We shouldn't be associated with these people." "I'm sorry, Lincoln, but I have a duty to protect my daughter. I'll keep your job position, but you have to break up with my daughter." Lincoln immediately apologized deeply. "Mr. Hughes, I truly love Aubrey. I don't care about the job. Please let me marry her." Dad paused at his earnest plea. I immediately rushed to Lincoln's side and stood close to him. "Lincoln, stop. I don't want to see you like this. No matter what Dad says, I want to marry you. Don't beg for forgiveness like this." Lincoln slowly stood up, looking pained, and gazed at me. Then Brooks came to Lincoln's side, and they both offered a deep apology. "I'm so sorry for my wife's behavior. Mr. Hughes, please forgive us." Suddenly, Karen stood up and shouted, "You! Don't show such an unseemly display. A small company's president could go bankrupt any day. There's no need to apologize. Don't be foolish. Mr. Hughes' Deli has a large factory and supplies deli products to stores in this area. Sure, the first store he runs might not be well known, but the company itself is large. Our store orders a lot from Mr. Hughes' company. That's why I told you not to upset them." As Brooks explained, Karen hurried over to Dad and, for some reason, snuggled up to his arm. "Hey, what are you doing to Dad?" Karen ignored my shout. "Oh, your company is that big. I understand, raising your daughter in a single-parent household and still managing a business seriously. Can't you forgive me? I didn't mean it, just worried about my son." Karen cooed against Dad's arm as if trying to charm him. I quickly intervened, pulling Dad away from Karen. "Hey, what are you doing? Dad has always been devoted to Mom. He's never agreed to remarry no matter how much I suggested it. He's a very stuffy person. Don't touch him so casually." Then Karen started to flatter me too. "Aubrey, I'm sorry about everything. I didn't know. If I had known from the start that he was the president of a big company, I wouldn't have acted that way." It seems Karen had misunderstood something from Brooks's explanation. Huh? A big company? We're a small to mid-sized business. Your husband's company is the bigger one, you know. The moment I said that, Karen's attitude changed completely and she turned to Brooks. Oh, you. This wasn't a betrayal. I was just trying to ensure our contact wouldn't be cut, Karen pleaded. The more she made excuses, the angrier Brooks became. It was evident even to me. Brooks's face turned beet red on the verge of exploding. The moment Karen grabbed Brooks's arm, his anger erupted. Stop showing such a disgraceful display. Get out. I can't take this anymore. Do you know how much shame you've caused me? I don't want to see your face anymore. I want a divorce. Brooks shouted, and Karen turned to Lincoln with teary eyes. Mom, I'm embarrassed. I've decided to cut ties with you. Lincoln, no, you can't mean that. It's a lie, right? I've reached my limit. You thought hurting the people I care about would make me happy? Right now, I hate you the most. That's why my brother left, right? Don't ever show up in front of me and Aubrey again. Lincoln glared at Karen with hatred, and she fled the scene. In the ensuing silence, Dad first looked at Lincoln with a very serious gaze. I held my breath for a moment, feeling the tension. Lincoln, can I entrust my daughter to you? Upon hearing those words, Lincoln's eyes lit up, and he answered loudly, Yes! His immediate response filled me with joy. I couldn't hide my smile as I gazed at Lincoln, and noticing this, he looked at me with tender eyes. Aubrey, will you marry me again? Of course. I'll follow you wherever you go. Not only Lincoln and I, but Brooks too seemed relieved, showing a smile, and Dad had a very gentle expression. Then we restarted our meal and enjoyed the food. Dad and Brooks deepened their bond over work discussions, and they even started talking about a new business venture, which Lincoln and I joined in on. Although Lincoln had been uncomfortable around Brooks, they seemed to get along once they started talking business. Afterward, I heard that Lincoln's parents got divorced. It turns out Karen had repeatedly cheated in the past, and trying to seduce Dad was the last straw. Karen was ordered to pay a significant amount in the divorce settlement and was forced out of the house. After the distribution of property, she had some tens of thousands of dollars left. But she continued living lavishly, buying luxury brands, and now she's struggling financially. Currently, she's living in a cheap apartment and working part-time, still struggling to reduce her standard of living. Interestingly, Lincoln's brother, who had been working hard at a company overseas, returned home after hearing about their parents' divorce. It seems he might eventually take over Brooks's company. Following the incident with Karen, Lincoln and I had a beautiful wedding surrounded by Dad, Brooks, relatives, and friends, and spent a happy time together. Now, Lincoln and I are starting our life together. We decided to live near Dad, so we can see him anytime and he won't feel lonely. Dad looked a bit grumpy, but not in a bad way. Rather, he seems quite happy. Lincoln and I are working together at the same place. Currently, Dad is handing over his duties to us, and eventually Lincoln is set to become the president. I've always supported Dad, and now I want to support Lincoln in the same way.